Hey, everybody in the whole world. It's your queen, your coach, your colleague, and your friend, Dr. Brenda Bowers. And I am here, as I promised you that I would be. Those of you who are keeping up with our month of 8, our year of 8, and then all the days in between, I'm just calling it that magnificent manna meal. Is very medicinal, it's very majestic, and we're just building a sandwich every day because in the month of August, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, August is the 8th month, and in the year 2024 is 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 2, which makes 8 as a year. So, to just help us through some processing, not just the Lionsgate portal, that 888, which did a lot of things in the entire world, and I've already talked about that. So if you want to go and look at that Lionsgate post, you can. But we're looking at this 8th month in this, when you add up the digits, 8 years and the 31 days in between, which I'm calling a lunch. We're making a sandwich. And I'm also encouraging you, as you build your sandwich, to make sure that you are consuming it throughout the day. And that when you take a bite of this sandwich that you're making, that you chew it at least 33 times. And that's because if you do that scientifically, anatomically, physiologically, mentally, spiritually, fiscally, you'll be able to find a lot of research that supports how we put in these small amounts into our digestive system. What isn't as pronounced that I will do, I don't want to give you a promise. I'm thinking about month 13 kind of being that gut month where I start teaching you about your gut reaction, about the importance of feeling butterflies in your stomach, about how your gut, our integumentary system. One of the things that's so interesting during this journey I've been on, particularly in the past 4 years, I'm used to just being kind of on it, and now I have to, sometimes it takes me a few minutes to get those things right, but my commitment is to continue to push them out. But what we're going to find out is that this digestive system that absolutely starts with intake into our mouth and how we chew really does determine how it goes through and comes out. So trust me, in August, as I work to get towards a habit for all of us, a better habit of chewing longer and consuming more frequently smaller amounts so that we can take our health back. We want to take our world back. We want to take our families back. We want to take our culture back. But the truth is, none of that matters if we're not healthy and here to stand for that which we are representing. So today is the 13th day of this month of August, and we're really getting close to what people believe is the closure of that Lionsgate portal. As I have told you, I am here to educate, to inform, to provide you any opinion that I may have, but I am not giving you any directive. I'm not giving you advice, regardless of the license that I hold and the degrees that I have. This is just, hopefully, a lot of it is fun and just kind of those fun fact trivia things that we used to be afraid to address. I'm trying to address them in different creative ways. Even though this is a delayed post, meaning that I'm not doing it live, the chat is still active. So I would love for each of you, of course, to like, share, subscribe. I need to tell you, I am right now a pillar of one. So I don't have anyone managing my chats for me and managing my subscriptions and the data and the algorithms. So right now I am just doing what I can. It's so very interesting because I was among the trailblazers and trendsetters about social media and social networking decades ago. And many of us were laughing stocks and told it would never happen, never have any validity, and here we are. But guess what? The seconds kept on rolling, and I done fooled around, and I didn't stop aging while I was doing that. And life didn't stop happening. But August 8th, 2024, the sandwich 8. First piece of bread is beginning new. 8. Last piece of bread is new beginnings. In the middle, that manna, that meat, that meal, that medicinal, majestic opportunity to consume living bread and living water with our Lord. This is the second video today, so I'm not going to go through all of the things that I went through this morning, but I promise you that what I would do is come back and talk more specifically about the number 13. Information you can pull. I'm just giving it to you so you don't have to, and if you want to, so you'll be curious enough to do it. When am I talking to you? You all that follow me at all, you now got a couple of trademarks. Even if you see somebody else doing them, I've been doing them for years. And that is until soon. I don't say sincerely, respectfully, finally, lovingly, all of those other very excellent conclusions to a salutation. But I let you know who I am and who I am becoming as I continue to revise who I am. And in the end, I always tell you until soon, because even though that seems to be a little bit paradoxical, that's always when I see you. And I have said love and peace for many, many years, and now I'm just saying agape and shalom, which still means love and peace. And on the front end, when I welcome you, I always welcome you to today, and I always welcome you to tomorrow. And I always welcome you to know that we do deal in knowledge yesterday. So you will hear me frequently say, remember that today is yesterday's tomorrow. So whenever you view this, if I were live or at whatever time, whenever you view it, is going to be today. It may be referencing a different time because maybe you won't watch it on the 13th. But my goal is to help you understand how fluid of a being you are, how powerful of a being you are, how God made us to be movers and shakers. And, of course, my number one bestseller, World Changers and Difference Makers. And I am going to continue to teach you how to be just that. Now, when I say that, what I'm really doing is pulling out what's already in you versus trying to push in you things that don't already exist. So, as a philosophical researcher, numerologist, analytic, I would say, just let's suffice it to say that I'm an analyzer. I was thinking of too many different things because I'm moving, because I'm a 12-8 and not an 8-12, so I got to manage that. And some of you already know what that means. But having the ability to be able to connect with people, world changers, difference makers, is all about changing the world one sphere at a time from the inside out. And it is an approach, a model, and a movement that God gave me, allowed it to turn into a number one bestseller in 2017. Life changed a lot for me in 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and here we are in 24, where I've tried to still connect and stay connected where possible. But when people say, "Are you really Dr. Brenda Bowers?" then I pause and I sometimes say, "It depends. What chapter are you talking about?" Because I've had multiple chapters in my life, and I am so excited to tell you that I'm in the best chapter yet. Because in this chapter, I am accepting me. And I didn't know for a long time that I had permission to do that. So those of you who are listening, I invite you to do it sooner than later, because it's worth it. Number 16, today is yesterday's tomorrow. What kind of sandwich do you want to make? If you're watching this tonight on August 13th, 2024, then you still have an opportunity. And you know what I tell you? I don't care if the front piece of bread and the back piece of bread are different. If you start out with cinnamon raisin and you're beginning new, and then if you close your sandwich out with sourdough, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you started out with the wrapping on the back end, you use water bread, doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter that now we're in double digits, what spread you use for your number one, which goes on to the back of your beginning new. So I say beginning new for that first 8, then we talk about the number of the day of the month, and then I say new beginning. Why? Because we're beginning new, as today being yesterday's tomorrow. We're getting our meal in, and we're allowing it to be medicinal. We're allowing it to be majestic. We're allowing it to be meaningful manna to us. And then as we prepare to launch into tomorrow, which when we get there will be today, that's where then we go into new beginnings. So it's always, so that last piece of bread is always to propel you. And one of the other things that you've heard me as a signature line say is just remember, wherever you want to go in life, it's okay. But when you get there, wherever there is, you're going to be there when you get there. So make sure that when you are making that level of change in life, whatever it is and whatever area it is, just remember that whenever you get there, you're going to be there too. So if who you are working to be away from is you, then work on you in the easiest way where you can get adequate support, where you can feel safe with yourself, secure, and where you can not only survive but thrive, because you're going to transform yourself one sphere at a time, which ultimately, when we all do that, we transform the world. I have been asked if I'm a Christian. The answer to that is yes, I am a follower of Christ. I am sold out for the Lord. And I also don't mean that in any denominational sense, which then makes me maybe a little different than a lot of people, because my goal is really to emulate Christ as it relates to looking at his life. What did he do? And what does the Bible give us? Not just in a King James Version, but also when we look at the Hebrew, when we look at the Greek. So I have studied that. I have studied that not just in my doctoral studies, but I've studied that my whole life. I was raised with that level of curiosity, and some of you have heard that. So my goal is always to find 1% that we can all agree on, and then to give 99% to that 1%, so we come up with 100% unity with diversity, inclusion, and all of the things that come with God loving an entire world and being the creator of entire universe, and not being afraid of the things that he created, like the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth, the animal, the waters, the firmament, the land. Once we just move away from indoctrination, and I do not want to say that in a negative way. I just want to say, allow yourself, because the process is, it doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. The process is separate to indoctrinate. So it doesn't matter. Pick any topic in the book. So just make sure that when you separate yourself from other things, that the indoctrination process is transformative for you, not on behalf of anybody else, political, religious, family, career, any of that. I want to make sure and understand better my assignment to just help you know who you are, because you're already everything that you need to be. How do we now make sandwiches to make sure that we get there? Don't know what September will look like, because it won't be 8 day of the week, day of the month 8. It will be 9 day of the month and 8. So what do we do? Not sure yet. Have some ideas, but right now we begin new. You building your own sandwich. Build new. I'm going to tell you the ingredients in the middle, but you're still going to be able to pick whatever meat or meatless option you want. And then we're going to have a new beginning to springboard us into the next day. So as we look at today as number 13, we're in this 1 and a 3 on these 8s. So I put myself in check. Like you heard me say I'm a 12-8, not an 8-12. Because the people that are 8-12s, they have that opportunity to keep their new beginning flowing into their authority and ruleship, which we talked about number 12. You got to go back and look at that. But being a 12-8, what I've learned, that meaning my birthday is December 8th, and I was born in 1959, which is a 24. So I am bookend with authority, responsibility, ruleship, reigning, governance, kingdom leadership, all of those things that have always been there because those are my bookends, my personal. But then my meat is this 8. And 8 I have standing up sometimes and sometimes on its side. And when it goes on its side, it's infinity. And I just have all these wonderful ideas. And then sometimes it gets daunting and people will say, but can you pick one? And the answer is sometimes I can't. But I found out that that's okay too. So what are your bookends? Because that's going to help you. Now, the last thing before I run down real quick, number 13, is I talked about the chat being open. I think it's so valuable. I know it is. It would be very valuable if we put together our own cookbook. If I was able to put together a cookbook for the 8-8 and the meat in between for August 2024. 9 years seems like it's a long time, but in 2033, that will be another bookend 8-8 year. And between now and then, life continues, and every single season has its own import. It has its own necessity. It has its own meaning. So there's never anything that is dull in this life. It's just a matter of trying to align as much significance that we already have access to instead of feeling that we can't do anything because of lack. So another big curriculum that I have and have done and have helped churches to do is implement your 86,400 second watch so that there are waiting, watching, and praying folks for 86,400 seconds a day, because that's how many seconds are in a day. And in one of my experiences when I flatlined, was gone and called that, I wasn't alive anymore, I have a minimum of 3 very real opportunities that I had that I'm incredibly humbled by, to be in the face of God, to be in the face of Christ, and to have some conversations. And the first time that happened, what the Lord said to me, sitting across from me from this huge rock, was, Brenda, you make really good decisions by the year, by the month, by the week, by the day, even by the hour, and even by the minute. But I need to know if you're willing to learn how to make choices by the second, which I didn't understand at the time. Followed up by, and what's the greatest gift God has given man? Salvation. God was my answer, to which he said no, to which I said, of course it is. Let me tell you something. Don't be crazy enough to argue with God when you're in his face. Just listen and agree. Obviously, he's right. And he said, no. The greatest gift we've given humankind is choice. That's the differentiator. And we love you so much that we're willing to allow you to choose to not love us back. So powerful. I continue to understand the benefit of being among the few of the few that have had that experience. What's important about 13? How was your sandwich today? Those of you who already made it while I was walking outside early this morning with our other friends out there. And today we found out that we got a hen turkey with her couple little goslets running around. where we walk at. How was your sandwich? How was your day? Making your own lunch really does help you as a person. Naturally, spiritually, I'm giving it to you as a self-affirming way. I cannot affirm you. I can validate you. I can validate your own affirmation. When we attempt to affirm, then we're pushing something into someone. And sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes you have to pause and say, you know what? You are a creative. But still, in order for that to become real, I have to then affirm back for myself. Brenda, you are a creative. And now if you tell me I'm a creative, you're validating my affirmation. And that does a different type of activation in our life. So, number 13. Hope you had a good meal today. Your first piece of bread was beginning new. What did you spread it with? Because we're spreading our double digits with a 1. So, you know, whether that's butter, mayonnaise, honey, ketchup, whatever. What was your 1 today? What did you use for your sandwich today? And then 13, we had this last time in these Roman numerals today, this X, which represents 10, that perfect number, and then the 3 ones. Tomorrow we eliminate the X again. The X factor goes out for a little while, and that does have also some implications. But after you did that 1 on that first piece of bread, then I told you, because it's 13, you still have 2 more pieces of meat, whatever you decide you're going to throw on there. So what was that for you? Was that meekness and quietness for you today? Was that journaling and reaching out to a family member today? Was it taking a vacation day and resting and watching something that you've wanted to? Is it a time today for your sandwich? Did you go and sit with a lost loved one at the cemetery, or with their ashes, or just in your heart? Did you allow to have tears of joy and laughter? Maybe that was your manna today. But whatever it was is your sandwich. And then what we're putting on the back of it is, because we don't have to have any fear, is then we're going into our new beginnings. So we're using the calories from our sandwich to launch us into our new beginnings, which will be 8:14. So 8:13, this number 13 is an incredible number. So I know that you have heard it said that 13 is a bad number. It's a number of superstition. It is in between 12 and 14. So it really is a struggle number, because it got these 2 bookends that are so incredibly powerful. 12, that next perfect number, and then we have 14, which is the doubling of a perfect number, and 13 is stuck in the middle. So there are a lot of just numerical things that you can find out about 13. It is traditionally considered a number of bad luck. Where does this come from? It's really an ordinal number, not a cardinal number. You can look that up. But let's talk about it kind of from the belief standpoint, and kind of why is it an unlucky number in the first place? And I actually had something that I wanted to read regarding that I just don't see it this second, but I will. I'm sure just in this quick trip that we'll go down this road. I did mention whatever it is that I'm thinking about. I know that I mentioned it in the previous video when I was walking this morning. So, and it wasn't long. I think it's like 17 minutes or something. This number 13. In Islam, in Shia, it signifies the 13th day of the month, Rajab, the lunar calendar, which is the birth of Imam Ali. So it is a total of 1 prophet and the 12 Shia imams in the Islamic school of thought. So from an Islamic standpoint, that's kind of a short version of 13. And all of our Islamic followers and supporters please weigh in the chat. In Christianity, all branches, it's said that Christ had 12 disciples, but we look at that royal number of 12, regal royals when I'm calling on you, but when you add Christ to it, then that number becomes 13. And it's best known by the representations at the Last Supper. So then when we remove Judas Iscariot, and it takes the disciples down to an 11 instead of a 12, and we've already done 11 and then 12 by putting Christ back in, it creates this issue of 13 representing something negative because it removed one via Judas Iscariot. But a lot of other things happened, right? In Catholicism, the apparitions of the Virgin of Fatima in 1917 were claimed to occur on the 16th day of 6 consecutive months. It's also associated with St. Anthony of Padua. And we look at the feast day that falls on June 13th. So that's a traditional celebration, and it involves praying a saint's name every Tuesday for 13 weeks. In Sikhism here in the area where I am over a decade ago was a horrible attack on a beautiful Sikh temple, and I've had an opportunity to work with some great people that were and are still part of that. So Sakhi evidence, the story of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, is when he was an accountant in a town of Sultanpur Lodi. He was distributing groceries to people. This is one of my favorite ones of 13. When he gave groceries to the 13th person, he always stopped because in Gurmukhi and Hindi, the word 13 is called Tera, which means yours. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji kept saying yours, yours, yours with the food, remembering God. So people reported to the emperor that he was giving out free food to people. And when the treasures were checked, there was more money than before, not less. So it was found that he wasn't stealing from the public government. Actually, his act of kindness increased the prosperity of the land. In Judaism, 13 signifies the day in which a boy matures and becomes a bar mitzvah. I just want to underline here, I believe I said it this morning, that a bar mitzvah we often consider as an event, but it is actually a noun, and it is what a person becomes when they arrive to that age, and that means they become an official member of the minyan. And the number of principles of Jewish faith are 13, and according to rabbinic commentary, the Torah, God has 13 attributes of mercy. Zoroastrianism is since the beginning of Nowruz tradition, the 13th day of each new Iranian year is called Sidda Bedur, a festival dedicated to pranks, committing pranks, and spending time outdoors, similar to what the United States may call April Fools. Confucianism, the 13 classics, are considered to be part of the Chinese classics. In Aztec mythology, according to Aztec mythology, the 13 heavens were formed by the gods from the head of Sapashti during creation. I really feel like I did that one not justice at all. And then in Wicca, which whether we want it to be, however you feel about it, why do I list it? Because Wiccan is a true documented religion and belief. And we can believe or not, because that's the greatest gift, right? It's the gift of choice, loving someone enough to let them not love you back. In Wicca, the common tradition of the religion holds that the number of members for a coven is ideally 13, though this tradition is not universal, but a true coven with its greatest power is one that has 13 members. So luck, bad luck. The word that I'm going to share with you is called triskaidekaphobia. 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 Triskaidekaphobia is the fear of the number 13. There are people that won't do anything. They won't get out of bed, nothing, because it's considered an unlucky number. The end of the Mayan calendar's 13 back fund was superstitiously feared as a harbinger of the apocalyptic 2012 phenomenon. Now, fear of the number 13 has a specific recognized phobia, and it is recorded as a diagnosis ever since 1911. And the superstitious sufferers of triskaidekaphobia, they try to avoid bad luck by keeping away from anything numbered or labeled with 13. As a result, companies, manufacturers, and others use numbering and label systems to actually avoid the number. And if you go into skyscrapers and many hotels, just look and see if they have a floor 13. Most use the 13th floor for mechanics or something versus rooms. So that's something. Go check it out and see what you find out. Don't think about it, but it is an amazing thing. I have looked at that, and you will see numbers go from 12, and then sometimes from either that 12th floor beginning or ending is when you have to get that extra key because it's considered a different higher level in the building, and that's whether residential or if it is hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. Last Supper, I talked about that with Judas Iscariot. This number 13 being considered unlucky, with this idea that at the Last Supper, Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus, was the 13th to sit at the table. He came last, and his name has 13 letters in it. So you had the Knights of the Templar in October. On Friday the 13th, 1307, King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest of the Knights Templar, and most of the knights were tortured and killed. And just while we're in France, as it relates to the Olympics, remember the Olympics is an international coming together of all diversities, countries. You meet the criteria. And this most recent controversy that we have dealt with Jordan Childs having to return the bronze, very interesting because her score was 13.666. And then the person that they were giving the bronze to instead of Jordan's score was 13.7. So there's some very interesting numerics going on there, just internationally. So we look at this being a big election year, and today, the 13th, is also a big voting day in a number of states for different primaries and different offices. And it is thought that voting is lower when the day of voting is on a 13th, but there people are voting today. But a lot then did early voting if they did so. Full moons, a year with 13 full moons instead of 12, poses problems for the monks who are in charge of the calendars. This was considered a very unfortunate circumstance, especially by the monks who had charge of the calendar for 13 months for that year. When they ended up with this 13-month year, it really messed up church festivals when things failed. So it came to be thought of as a lucky number. Typical century has about century. So in 100 years, there's typically about 37 years that have 13 full moons compared to 63 of 100 years having 12 moons. And it's about every third or fourth year that has these 13 full moons. So again, the science behind it versus the superstition behind it. Just looking at what we know and what we can show, right? Because it's more than just what we believe. Some things are what we know because we can show. like 11. Remember what we did on day 11? We had to take those overdue library books back so we could step into the new. We had some overdue and some new. So there are some things that because we know them, we can show. It's just an is. So, in ancient cultures, the number 13 represented femininity because it corresponds to the number of lunar menstrual cycles that a woman has in a year. 13 times 28 days, 364 days. So the theory is that as the solar calendar triumphed over the lunar calendar, or the sun calendar triumphed over the moon calendar, that the number 13 then became anathema, then became superstition, then became bad. And you all know that one of the other things that I do is study Hebrew years, which were in the year 5784, the year of the door, the decade of the mouth, and we're getting ready to move into 5785. Incredible year because it's a bookend year as well, and it starts on October 2nd, and it's going to be a 5 at the beginning sandwiched by a 5, and the digits add up to 25 divided by 5 is 5. So it's going to be all kinds of stuff happening as we overlap. Again, that is going to happen on October 2nd. You'll be hearing more from me regarding that. The code of Hammurabi in Babylonian code of, I'm saying Hammurabi, but you know, a lot of times it's Harambe. So again, just take my speech for what it's worth. One of the things is that it's late. I am like a 4 in the morning to about a 2 o'clock person. So I'm like, what in the world? What's going on with my tongue? Well, where I'm at is 6 o'clock. I'm tired. It's telling me be quiet, stop talking. It's 1780, this 13 law, and Hammurabi's law is said to be omitted. In fact, the original code didn't have any numbers. Then when it was translated in 1910 by Richard Hooker, there was one article that was eliminated, and that's how you get into that 13 there. So what about good things? France, 13 was traditionally considered a lucky number in France prior to the First World War, and it was used in numeric form as a good luck symbol on postcards and as charms. In Italy is a lucky number in the Italian football pools. Italian expression of ferrare, tredici, make 13, means that you hit the jackpot. In the United States, Colgate University also considers 13 a lucky number. They were founded in 1819 by 13 men and $13 and 13 prayers and 13 articles. And even to this day, members of the Colgate community consider the number 13 a very good omen. In fact, the campus address is 13 Oak Drive in Hamilton, New York. And the male a cappella group is called the Colgate 13. So that gives you, you know, go on Wikipedia. I looked at Wikipedia and some others, some other sites that feed into Wikipedia. But all this is stuff that you can look at. I'm just saying it to you. A couple of other things as I wrap up right at 38 minutes. Want to make sure that I stay under 45. It's a baker's dozen. Some people call it a devil's dozen. It's never been a devil's dozen for us. How I was raised, a baker's dozen was always 13. And now it's like 12. Have any of you ever gone to get some donuts? Now ask for a baker's dozen and they'll give it to you like it's a day-old dozen. No, a baker's dozen means that you're getting 13 donuts instead of 12. That's that extra. It's not a devil's dozen. It's this long dozen. You get more. You get a vantage loaf. It's the 13th loaf of bread. It's the vantage loaf. It's the advantage if we get it. And with King Arthur in medieval texts, we know there were the 12 greatest knights of the Round Table, totaling 13, similar to Jesus because of King Arthur making that 13. The 13 treasures of Britain are a series of magical items listed in the late medieval texts, and the 13 postures of Tai Chi are 13 postures consisting of 8 gates and 5 steps, and they're considered to be of fundamental importance in the practice of Tai Chi, and those of you who do Tai Chi already know that. I'm a Taekwondo lady, so again, you know, I've done stuff my whole life that doesn't align with the strict conservative side of what people think I believe, but they think it instead of ask. And it is a powerful thing. I love the Lord with my whole heart, mind, body, soul, and spirit, and my neighbor as myself. In Judaism, 13 signifies that noun, bar mitzvah, is what these young boys become. And in a tarot card, that those of you who do tarot card readings, you know that X111 is the card of death, and it shows a pale horse on it as its rider. X111, and that's the day we're in. Tomorrow we go to 1V. So again, today is that last time for now that we see the X show up. So it's just some fun things to think about. That 13 is that minimum age of consent in Argentina, in Burkina Faso, in Japan, in Niger, and in 2 Mexican states. One of the social media platforms in the United States, 13 is the standard minimum age to be allowed to create an account in compliance with COPA, which is Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which is why a lot of people click no when they say, is this made for children? Because when you pick yes, and you have to answer some other appropriate additional questions. At age 13, the Entertainment Software Rating Board, or ESRB, ESRB, they assess for T-rated games, and Motion Picture Association recommends movies with a PG-13 rating. And then we look at kind of that difference between PG-13 and R. We know that the United States was created on 13 British colonies. We know that the number 13 is commonly recurring in the motif of American heraldry. For example, 13 stars on the Great Seal of the United States. There's 13 stripes on the American flag, as well as 13 rays on the flag of Arizona. The first flag of the United States bore 13 stripes, alternating red and white, and 13 white stars on the blue ribbon. And the 13 stripes represented the 13 colonies from which the United States was created, and the 13 stars represented the number of states in the new nation. And when the 2 new states were added to the Union in 1795, the flag had 15 stars and 15 stripes. With the addition of 5 new states in 1818, like Illinois, the number of stripes then were reset and permanently fixed at 13. So the Great Seal of the United States bears many images of the number 13, representing 13 colonies. The seal the overhead glory bears 13 stars. The chest sealed in front of the spread eagle bears 13 stripes, 7 white, 6 red. Eagle's right talon holds the olive branch of peace, which bears 13 olives and 13 olive leaves. The eagle's left talon holds the weapons of war, consisting of 13 arrows. The eagle's mouth holds a scroll bearing the national motto E Pluribus Unum, which by coincidence consists of 13 letters. And on the seal's reverse, the unfinished pyramid consists of 13 levels. So just incredible. 13 America, as those of us who are here try to avoid that. Lean into that, because there's a lot of history, and that history has life, and that life is manifesting, and we see it manifesting in 2024 in a national election year. The 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime. It's important when we say the 13th Amendment, we lean into it. We're not afraid of it because it gives us liberty. Apollo 13 was a NASA moon mission famous for being a successful failure in 1970. So there's just so many things you can look at in sports with the Indianapolis 500 from year 1915 to year 2022. It was not permitted to use between 1926 and 2002 the number 13. So you never saw a car with the number 13 because you couldn't. Just looking to see if there are any other things. NCAA Division One, men's college basketball teams, they're allowed to provide scholarships to no more than 13 players at any given time. And in the game of pool, of course, the pool ball 13 is the 13th in pool, and its color is orange or pink in the Brazilian pool. So many things in television and film and in literature. Go and check it out. I just wanted to make sure to give you some of the things in your sandwich. So as you're chewing 33 times, one for each year of Christ as my request, because then you're going to find anatomically and physiologically we become healthier when we slow down and eat our sandwich. I'm asking you to do the same thing every day while we're using 8 and 8 as our pieces of bread. Tomorrow, you get to fill those pieces of bread with 14. So we're going to lean into our creative. But for now, it's your coach, it's your colleague, it's your queen, it's your friend. It's the come on, get over it, get with the program, work with me, y'all. You know I'm asking you for prayer. And I got to go lay down so I can get up and be out in those wood streets in the morning so I can make sure that I'm getting those miles in to keep this external temporal under control, because the internal, eternal, has a charge to keep and a God to glorify. I love you so much, and it is until soon, because when I see you again, it's going to be today, because today is going to be yesterday. So when I see you, it's going to be today being yesterday's tomorrow. So it's always tomorrow, which is always today. Oh, work with it in your own mind. Oh, because it's true. And once you get it, you release it, and then those 86,400 seconds, guess what? We're all the same level of wealth, because God doesn't give, quote unquote, rich people more seconds and quote unquote, poor people less. If we wake up for every single 24 hours we live, we all get to spend 86,400 seconds. How are you spending yours? It's always only until soon and until forever. It's Dr. Brenda Bowers. Agape and shalom.